Hello. This is the Vietnam Social News Update for September 24th, 2025. Date of news coverage: September 24th, 2025. Politics. Vietnam's political leadership is pushing deeper into administrative and governance reforms, notably through the convening of the Party Organization Congress for Central Agencies. Delegates gathered to evaluate past achievements and strategize for the 2025-2030 term under the banner of enhancing party unity, oversight, and strategic advisory roles across ministries and agencies. Meanwhile, the Politburo's recent Conclusion 192 reinforces decentralization and delegation of power, aiming to clear bottlenecks in local governance. In tandem, the Communist Party's emphasis on military modernization remains elevated. General Secretary To Lam has called for the armed forces to become more agile and technology-driven in their operations, tying this drive into the broader national Determined to Win emulation movement across all sectors. Observers note this reflects the party's acknowledgement of rising regional security risks, especially in maritime disputes, and the need for the military to be a credible deterrent. VietnamNews.vn. At the same time, Vietnam is navigating complex strategic relationships. A sensitive revelation by AP shows Vietnam using profits from its Russia-linked oil venture to quietly repay defense contracts, bypassing conventional banking routes to avoid sanctions. This underscores Hanoi's tightrope act, maintaining historic ties with Russia while avoiding punitive consequences from Western powers. AP News +1. Now, let's move to the economy. Vietnam's export sector is under serious pressure following new U.S. tariffs. The UNDP estimates these duties could slash up to $25 billion from Vietnam's annual U.S.-bound exports, making it one of the hardest-hit economies in the region. Reuters. In response, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh has announced that Vietnam intends to deepen trade negotiations with the U.S., while also seeking new free trade agreements with Latin America's Mercosur bloc and Gulf Cooperation Council nations. Reuters. Investing.com. 2. He projects export growth for the full year could surpass 12%, citing a strong 15.8% year-on-year rise to $325.3 billion through mid-September. Reuters. Meanwhile, economic tensions are also playing out with the European Union. The EU is preparing to press Hanoi to dismantle non-tariff barriers hindering EU goods, such as delays on agricultural products, pharmaceuticals, and wine. Reuters. Bilateral trade volumes between Vietnam and the EU have reached about 67 billion euros, but the EU's trade deficit is ballooning. Reuters. This dynamic underscores an urgent need for Vietnam to harmonize domestic regulation with global trade norms. Against these headwinds, domestic resilience shows in sectors less exposed to U.S. demand. Vietnam is also reinforcing infrastructure and connectivity. For example, Vietnam Airlines and Singapore Airlines announced a codeshare deal effective October 26, designed to boost regional linkage, tourism, and trade flows. Next, in society and culture. Society and culture. Vietnam recently secured victory in the 2025 Intervision Song Contest, an event reintroduced by Russia as an ideological counterpoint to Eurovision. Vietnamese singer Duc Phuc delivered a folk-inspired performance that captured first place. Reuters. The win is significant not just artistically, but geopolitically, signaling Vietnam's willingness to engage with alternative cultural platforms and project its national narrative abroad. Domestically, cultural diplomacy remains a key pillar of Vietnam's soft power. Vietnam is actively promoting its literary and historic figures like Nguyen Du, Nguyen Tri, and Ho Xuan Hum at UNESCO and other international settings, aiming to heighten global awareness of Vietnamese culture. This complements its broader objectives of strengthening identity and outreach in tandem with political strategy. In social developments, Vietnam is also confronting demographic and environmental pressures. The fertility rate in many urban centers remains below replacement levels, heightening the urgency of social policy innovation, family welfare, and labor reforms. Meanwhile, the Mekong Delta region is increasingly vulnerable to climate stress. Rising temperatures, shifting rainfall, and seasonal extremes threaten agriculture, fisheries, and rural livelihoods. Communities and local governments are calling for more adaptive infrastructure and environmental planning to preserve both cultural heritage and economic sustainability. Finally, international relations Vietnam is expanding diplomatic engagements across multiple fronts. At the United Nations General Assembly in New York, Acting Foreign Minister Le Huy Trung held talks with counterparts from Australia, Nicaragua, and Georgia. In particular, the Vietnam-Australia strategic partnership was reaffirmed, with leaders highlighting cooperation in defense, education, trade, and people-to-people exchanges. VietnamNews.vn. Earlier, Trung also participated in a policy dialogue at Columbia University, emphasizing Vietnam's role in global governance. VOV.vn. Regionally, trade relationships remain central. In its drive to counterbalance U.S. tariff pressures, Vietnam is accelerating new trade agreements and maintaining existing ones. Moreover, the EU is pressing Vietnam to reduce non-tariff barriers, an issue likely to dominate upcoming diplomatic discussions between EU and Hanoi. Reuters+1. On the Russia front, leaked documents reveal a hidden funding channel. Profits from Vietnam-Russia oil ventures have been used internally to pay for military procurements, in a method designed to sidestep international sanctions. AP News+1. The revelation spotlights Hanoi's delicate balancing strategy, retaining defense ties with Russia while avoiding sanctions backlash from the US and its allies. In the Middle East, bilateral ties are also growing. Vietnam and Kuwait have pledged deeper collaboration across trade, investment, tourism, and sustainable development. Travel and Tour World. Simultaneously, Vietnam's Deputy Foreign Minister extended congratulations to Saudi Arabia on its National Day, underscoring how trade, labor, and cultural links between Vietnam and the Gulf are gaining momentum. Thông tấn xã Việt Nam. Thank you for listening to the Vietnam Social News Update. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and see you again tomorrow. This news summary is based on publicly available reports and rewritten uniquely for Vietnam Social News.